First question, we're going to get to your bid for mayor in just a second, but I first want to talk about your work as a pastor with vaccinations. Early on, you joined a group of leaders and you publicly got vaccinated. Tell me about that. Was that important for you to do that?
It was very important. For me, I take the role that I have, the influence and impact that I have very seriously. And although at first, like with many people, I was somewhat apprehensive, I understood that by me stepping out and doing this, it would have a positive impact, hopefully, prayerfully, a positive impact on people. So when I got the call, I got in touch with my mother. We went down, we did that, knowing that there would be people that would watch that and say, okay, if Pastor Tim did this, if his mother did this, then maybe I ought to give this a shot.
Apprehension, is it of the vaccination itself? What was your apprehension going into it?
Just not knowing, and having some of the questions that many people have had in the country. How did this come about so fast? What's in this? And again, looking at the history of medical abuse toward Black and brown people in our country, that plays in the back of your mind. But then after weighing the amount of people that have died, seeing how it's ravaged our community, it really became something that it became my duty as a leader to step out and really, really begin to rethink how I was looking at this vaccination.
And when we talk about the disparity, I mean, it affects African Americans as far as the death rate and all of the above. And the disparity, though, of people getting it, and you ended up initiating something through your church where you thought, I want to get over this hump with disparity and access. So I think you initially thought, I might get 100 people here for this clinic. Tell me about how that came about.
Yeah, I had received a inbox from Dr. Sarah Moyer, and she had asked if I was interested in partnering to get the vaccination out. And I didn't really hear anything after that. And then I got a call from the University of Louisville, and we pulled our team together. They pulled their team. We got on a Zoom call, and on that call, we decided that the church would be the best place. People were familiar with it. We're in a wonderful spot downtown, right there on Broadway. And from that conversation, it was, okay, let's shoot for 100 people. Let's shoot to see if we can get 100 people. Now, if you remember when we had the large snowstorm a couple of weeks ago, that was the week before. Our plan initially was to get out, go to the grocery stores, go to some places, do some, boots on the ground, and really try to gin up some support for the vaccination event. The snowstorm comes, we can't do any of that. We were able still to register between 800 and 1,000 people just off of social media and word of mouth. And that's when things changed for me. That going into that event, the dominant word that we were hearing was apprehension. After talking to people, after making calls and conducting surveys, we found out it wasn't really apprehension, it was access. People were literally on the phone crying because they had been trying to follow the link. They had been trying to register online. There were connection issues. Some people didn't understand the way in which it worked. There were so many different things that happened. And again, that was a major, major shift for me, even in the way that I saw the way the vaccination rollout was happening.
So I was going to say, because, I mean, when you look at the disparity about the number of people who are getting the shot, like you said, I found maneuvering the system at times could be difficult. And I even said to, my family, if you don't have internet, if you don't have an advocate, if you don't have somebody helping you and you're elderly, because we got my mom a shot who is 90, had we not navigated that for her, it wouldn't have happened.
It would not have happened. It would not have happened. And I think, too, we have to do a better job. We have to, of thinking through those kinds of possible issues. What I've been challenged by, it just seems as though we were very, very reactive instead of being proactive. If there were internet connections in our Black and brown communities before this, then they're not going to magically improve. So there were things that I think we could have done a little bit better to make the vaccination rollout a little smoother and more equitable for everyone.
Probably even getting leaders in the faith community involved earlier because there's a comfort level with faith leaders that more people perhaps, had you been involved and many of the other pastors in the area, would have helped.
Absolutely, and I've been very vocal about that. I think now, with the governor and the mayor, we're on the right track. We're seeing people being vaccinated in large numbers. I was just at a historic event there at the Kentucky African American History Museum. 3,000 people were vaccinated, but I believe that it's late, and that could have happened much sooner. Like you said, had leaders in the community been contacted, brought into a room, been able to strategize with the healthcare professionals and the governmental officials, and allow us to do what we do each and every week. My first time hearing from anyone was mid-February. Now, at that point, again, you have people who are ready. They're saying to themselves, again, when this rolls out, I want to get it. I'm not able to give answers because at that point, I have no idea what's going on until things come together, and all of a sudden now you have people who are desperate to get it. And I think to myself, what could have been done if we were meeting in November, if we were meeting in December? What could have been done if we were allowed to help administrate some of the issues that they had at Broadbent Arena? All of these things could have really caused this whole process to be smoother. But I think it goes back to part of the issue that many times in our community, and not just black and brown communities, but many times just with Louisvillians, period, that when you have a administration that's not transparent, it creates distrust. And you want people like myself and others to at least be informed of what's going on so that we can relay the proper information.
And I think it's so key. I just want to point out again what you said. It really was less to do with apprehension, as you found out, than access.
Absolutely.
Which is something that's so easily
so
overcome.
easy. We had a volunteer team of 5 people. 5 people who, instead of doing the links, we said, call this number. We used our regular church lines. And again, between 800 and 1,000 people over the course of about 6 days called those numbers, spoke with a live person. We scheduled the appointment. We followed up with them. 5 people. At that time, and this is what's amazing, Rachel, it was 16,000 total, I think 16,300 total at that time in the black and brown community who had been vaccinated. We almost hit 1,000 in a week.
Wow.
16,000 in the state. One church does 1,000 at a moment's notice in the middle of a snowstorm with social media and word of mouth.
You have to meet people where they are.
You have to meet people where they are.
No. Let's talk about the facts. So we know you as a pastor. Many know you as a community organizer slash activist after the killing of Breonna Taylor. And I wonder, did that help inform your decision to run for mayor?
It certainly pushed it over the edge. I had been thinking and really pondering on sort of my political trajectory for some time. It was something that I knew was coming.
You did?
But I did. And most people who I was really connected to pretty close, I had talked to them about this and I said, this is where I'm going, this is what's gonna happen. I didn't know when. 2020 happens, Breonna Taylor, the murder, and then what I saw from the city and the way that things were handled, I felt in that moment, now's the time. This has to be the time. Our city is in desperate need of change. Our city's in desperate need of healing. And I felt really the mandate, the call to do this now. And I think it was the best possible decision.
There's a lot to unpack there. When did you know that you wanted to run? Was it because you saw something lacking, or it was something in you that you thought you would be a good candidate?
I've always felt that if there's going to be lasting change, you've got to be at the table. You have to be in the room where policy, initiatives, programs are being crafted together that affect so many different people. I've always known that. That's been something for the last several years that has been heavy on me. But again, even a brief stint in this in the mayor's office and working in the Office of Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods and seeing the behind the scenes, it just further inflamed that passion that this is the direction that I need to go. But again, when the Breonna Taylor, with COVID-19, the disparities, when we saw the inequities in our city, and so many different things that happened in 2020, it felt like now I'm being pushed to make that decision. And it felt natural. It felt that, to be completely honest, I felt that this was God saying, this is the time. This is the moment. I'm opening this door now because this is where change, and I've set you for this moment.
Because you have to, I mean, the field is wide open, right? I mean, it appears that it could be a crowded field.
Yeah.
Does that concern you in any way?
Not at all. I think, number one, this is what democracy is all about. But then number two, I think it's a crowded field. There are a lot of people there, but a lot of those people have a lot of similarities. And I think it's going to be up to the voters to see if we really want change, if we really want healing, if our time is really now, then we've got to break away from the last 30 years. You know, I'm registered as a Democrat, and the Democrats have been in control of this city for the last 30 plus years. We are where we are today. So this is not about political party. This is about the soul of this city. This is about someone who can come in and not just be good for one community or not just good for one group, but can pull everyone together, can say, if this city is going to be a great city, it has to be equitable, it has to be fair, and we've got to move forward together.
We have seen such division with the police department, and even with the FOP, the Civilian Review Board.
Yeah.
And so how do you heal that? How do you bring together, because there were people who felt those two voices shouldn't be on the Civilian
Right.
Review Board, felt that they had come out and said that they distrusted and hated police. How can they do that? On the other side, people are saying, of course you have to have, you know, difference in voice. That's how we move forward. So how do you bring those two things together and begin healing?
A quote that I always use, and I think is so profound, from James Baldwin. He says, you cannot fix what you will not face. We are not going to heal, and we're not going to move forward together if we constantly ignore what is right in front of our face. I can say Stachel Bussey is a dear friend of mine. She's a part of the Justice and Freedom Coalition. Antonio Taylor, another dear friend of mine. I support them wholeheartedly, and I know their heart. And some of the things that they have said were taken out of context. They love this city, and they want to see what's best for this city. But I will say this, to say that I don't trust policing is not a stretch. I would ask those parents who had children caught up in that Explore sex scandal, do they trust policing? We have a culture of a police department, within a police department, that's an issue right now. And I'm not against police. One thing, if you come to Kingdom Fellowship, we have police officers in our church. I'm going to be performing a marriage of one of my members who's marrying a police officer, and I love them both. So this is not about police, but the policing structure has to be transformed. And I believe that we can do that without alienating the police. I think we've got to rein in.
You do feel that you can do that?
Absolutely.
You use the word transform, not defund. Is that a word you stay away from and go with transform? And what do you see on how you would do that?
Well, I think that when we use the word defund, and I do use the word defund, but I think that it has to be understood that defund does not mean abolish. Defund simply means look at the budget, look at the line items. What can we do in terms of reallocating funds to make sure that the community is supported and that we're not wasting money? I think that's number one. I use the word transform because I believe that it's more than just defunding. It's more than just a conversation about finances. I think that we've got to look at policy issues within the police department. It's funny at times to me because people get up in arms about words that we use. But then the city will come out and hire an independent review board or body to come in and list for us all of these cultural issues. The police chief, the mayor will do press conferences and say, yes, there are issues within our police department. We can be a better police department. Well, how does that happen? We have to transform certain policies. So I use that word to say it's not just one thing here and one thing there. We've got to do better in terms of the culture of that police department. And I would like to see more people added to the police department. What I mean by that, more people that look like me. Well, what better way for that to happen than someone at the helm who knows the community, who knows the city, and understands both sides of the equation.
Have you met with the police chief, the new police chief?
Not yet. Not yet. I am planning on doing that very, very soon. She has reached out, to her credit, and I would like to speak with her. I do have questions, and in the interest of full disclosure, I was not happy about her hiring or the timing of her hiring, but I do believe this, that she is in position right now, and she is the police chief, and as a community leader, it is my responsibility to make sure that people are safe, that the city is moving forward, and if that means me sitting and talking with her and figuring out a way forward, I'm certainly willing to do that.
And how do you bridge the divide? Because I was looking at all the social media comments about the Civilian Review Board now, and it's just, it's non-starters for some people. How do you bridge that divide? Because you see it in this city.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are, I'm not coming downtown, I'm not doing this. I mean, how on earth do you begin the healing? I mean, have you ever seen such a divide in the city? Let me ask you that first.
I have not, and it's very deep right now, but I'll say this. I think for where we've been, this is necessary. And I say that because there are so many things that have bubbled to the top. When you talk about COVID-19 and the disparities, well, that has to do with social determinants of health and inequities that have existed for years. Well, COVID-19 came in and ripped the cover off that. Now we can deal with it. As difficult as 2020 was in terms of the divide and race relations, there were so many people who just went to and fro without ever thinking about a group of people who are hurting, or a group of people who feel a certain way about policing or food justice or economic injustice. Now we're dealing with these things. So as difficult as this time is, it's necessary. We've got to have right leadership that can come in and say, we're not afraid to deal with this, and we're not simply going to give lip service to it. What we've got to do is come in and deal with these very real issues. We've got to figure out why, not just COVID-19, not just police transformation, but we've got to talk about why some of our best and brightest leave our city and never come back. We've got to talk about why codes and regulations is so hard for small businesses to thrive in our city. We've got to talk about all of these things and then figure out a way forward. And I believe that we can do that.
So what would you say to somebody who is getting to know you for the first time looking at this, going, yes, I know he was a pastor, I know he is an activist. What would you say to them that why they should give you a shot at this?
Born and raised in this city, love this city. I am not coming to this place with political aspirations. I'm not thinking about my next move. My main focus is to see our city move forward for everybody. I am not the standard candidate. I'm not coming in with all of the political experience that many that will declare will have. I don't have that, and I think that's my strong point. I'm coming in as a person that you will see in the mall, someone that you will see getting their car fixed at AutoZone, wherever, and saying, because I love this city, because I want to genuinely see this city move forward, and because I can be the change, I think that they ought to give me a chance.
And people sometimes, you and I both know it, they're fearful of change.
They are.
And that means giving
I pastor
up
a church, so you know I know. If I change the carpet, listen.
But with that comes, taking power away from some, making it more equitable for others. With that comes fear.
Yes.
And what do you say to folks who, as you enter this phase and know they're already is uncomfortable with some of the discussions we've had?
Sure.
What do you say to people That's okay to be uncomfortable? All of that's okay?
Yeah, well, I mean, and that answers it really. I think that it's my job, it would be my job as the mayor to let people know that in order for us to cross over to this place that I believe all of us want to be, then it's not just conversation, but this is the strategy for how we get there. And while it may be uncomfortable, and while it may be difficult in times, showing that once we get there together, it's a wonderful place to be for everyone. And I would just say, there's no progress without struggle. We're in the midst of a struggle right now, but I believe wholeheartedly that we're making progress. I believe we can make progress, and I believe real change is what's needed in order for us to get to that place.
Is there a role model? Is there somebody that I mean, as a religious man, it may be that you pray about these things. Is there somebody that who's kind of your spiritual guide in that you've seen or you read about or you draw inspiration from?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll tell you, well, first and foremost, my faith in God is what grounds me. And as a pastor, as a Christian, what is the center for me are the words of Jesus when he says, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. As a pastor, as a Christian, as a man of integrity, I can't just love one people. I love all people. And because of that, I want to see all people do well. All people move to the next place where they can flourish in their individual endeavors. When it comes to people here, I have people like Dr. F. Bruce Williams, Dr. Walter Malone, Dr. Kevin Cosby. These are individuals that I look up to, that I communicate with, that pour into me. People like Sadiqa Reynolds, who is a great friend of mine, who is probably one of the most brilliant people that I know. Certainly my mother and father, they are my original heroes. People that instilled into me what it means to be a man, what it means to be a man of faith, and still to this day check on me to make sure that I'm walking in integrity. But then people like Senator Raphael Warnock in Georgia, who is a pastor, who is a senator, who I was just on my way here listening to his message from Palm Sunday. They should have listened to her. He is a major inspiration, and just so on and so forth around the country. People that I look to as help, people that I look to in times of need to kind of help give me guidance, because I think that's also very important.
And did any of them say, don't do it when it came to running for mayor, or
No.
were they all in?
I think they were all in, but they were all very transparent with me on what this road will mean. I think Sadiqa was probably the most passionate about it, as she is, and I'm thankful for that. Because the one thing that I know, when you have friends that support you, then they support you. They're not supporting you behind the scenes. But real friends will also tell you the truth, that this is what you can expect, this is what's coming, this is what you need to be prepared for, and that's what I need, that's what I want. So they definitely were supportive. None said don't do it, but they were very blatant with their sentiments.
Well, because sometimes you see people lose themselves in a campaign and
Yeah.
all of those things.
Absolutely.
And my guess is that's one of those talks that you had as well. How do you stay the course and be true to yourself in a campaign?
Absolutely. And I think for me, it goes back to the way that I was raised. Coming from a home where both my parents are preachers and teachers, coming from a home where I was taught to love everyone, and the same thing that I'm instilling into my daughter, who's 19, student at Western Kentucky University. Her and I had a talk, and she keeps me grounded as well, because
Kids do that.
they do. I think out of everyone in my life, she probably is the most blunt out of everyone, and I'm glad for it. She's like a little me, but staying grounded is very important.
Two quick more questions that I want. Everybody is so worried about downtown, and you've read the comments that, can you have a vibrant downtown and protests, or are they mutually exclusive?
Well, I think this, and I think was it Mark Twain? I don't remember, but the demise has been greatly exaggerated. We're downtown now, And I read a post the other day where it talked about all the boards up downtown, and I'm just driving around trying to find these boards. I think that we have to do a better job in terms of the way that downtown is portrayed in the media, and I think that there are things that can be done because you have people who have not been downtown in a year, plus some people who are not even in the city of Louisville. So we have to portray that. But when it comes to downtown and the protests, number one, any city that's progressive has a vibrant downtown. But that should not come at the expense of other places in the city. We should not have or put so much into the downtown area that we forget about the citizens of our city who are living under very difficult conditions. So I'll say, when it comes to what people are protesting, to me, that's the real conversation. So yes, we want a downtown that's vibrant, but for the protesting, the question becomes, what's being protested? Why are there protests? And should we simply focus in on the act of protesting, or should we dig deeper and see that they're protesting because, again, a culture of policing? They're protesting because healthcare inequities. They're protesting because there is a food desert in the West End. They're protesting because we were pepper gassed and tear gassed and shot with rubber bullets, but then on January the 6th saw an insurrection in Washington, D.C., where nothing happened. These are the kinds of things that we have to face, and we have to learn that people aren't simply coming to downtown and protesting because they have nothing else to do. They're trying to get the attention of the mayor, the governor, the city council to say, we are not okay, we need help.
And we're all better when everybody's better.
And we're all better when everybody's better.
That connectedness, because there will be some, well, this doesn't affect me. That's not the case.
Yeah, I had someone who, they inboxed me a while back and they said, you ought to be ashamed of yourself as a reverend being arrested for protesting. And I said, okay. And I said, well, what do you think about Martin Luther King? Well, he was a great man, you need to be more like him. Martin Luther King was arrested over 29 times, and he was a reverend. He was protesting because he understood, if we're not all okay, then none of us are okay. And a part of my role as being part of these protests and moving in these protests, it shows that I believe in fighting for what's right. I believe in fighting for all people. And the same way that I was willing to put it all on the line for the family of Breonna Taylor, the family of David McAtee, the family of so many individuals who've been taken from us, is the same way that I'll fight for this city.
Last question. If there was one word to describe yourself as we bring this interview to a close, what would it be? Focused. Focused.
I am very focused on the road ahead. I'm focused on this city being better. And whether I am elected by the people as the next mayor of Louisville or not, I'm going to be here and still fighting for everyone.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.